Hey everybody, welcome back to When Harry Met Board Games, where we feed our people with relatable content and our victory condition is your satisfaction. I'm Harry and today we'll be doing another playthrough. Today I'll be playing through Kings of Israel, published by Funhill Games. This is a Bible-themed cooperative game for 2 to 4 players. However, I will be playing solo by controlling 2 characters. And this is what the game looks like set up. And one real caveat, even though this is a Bible-themed game and there's lots of religious text on some of these cards, it can be enjoyed by people of diverse faiths. As a matter of fact, the renowned board game reviewer, YouTube reviewer Radu, who is a self-proclaimed atheist, thinks that this is an amazing game and says that he believes that this is a better gateway into the cooperative genre than even Pandemic itself, which is one of his favorite games of all time. So with that being said, this is what the board looks like set up. So we have a starting setup of these sin cubes that we draw location cards to place on, and the game indicates how much cards are drawn based on the player count. We also start with some of these altars in randomly drawn locations as well, and these, not altars, I should say, idols. And these idols are even more dangerous than the sin cubes. And we start with one altar in the city of Samaria, and the altars are actually the goal of the game. And based on the player count, the goal changes as to how many altars we must win for the winning condition or build. So in a 2-player game, we need to build 7 altars in Israel in order to win. So we start with 1. We want to keep whichever ones we have because they can be destroyed. And we want to add another 6 to make it a total of 7. We shuffle all the different decks of cards, and there's lots of decks of cards, the abilities, the blessings, the locations, the resources, the sin and punishment. Each player is dealt a starting ability that differentiates him or her from the other players. So for example, the blue player here will be the sailor. You may travel from one seaport to any other seaport for 1 action, because normally players would have to travel to the next closest seaport. But this sailor gets to tweak that rule. Also, once per turn, if at a seaport, you may remove a single cube for free. So that is phenomenal. Now, we'll look at the giving ability, or the special ability for the Megiddo player, which is, or the orange player, which is giving. And he starts in Megiddo. That's another thing I forgot to mention. The ability tells you your starting town. So blue starts in Akko, the sailor. And the giving player says if it does not take an action for you to perform the give resources action, because that's one of the many actions that players could choose from during their turn. They could choose to share resources with a player that's in the same space, but for the giving player, they will not need to use an action for that. But it also says you may give resources to any prophet that is adjacent to you by road, so you're not limited to just being in the same spot. Also, each player to start the game draws 2 of these resources. There are 5 different resources in the game, and there's multiples of each, and they are useful in their own ways. For example, gold right here is useful towards the building of these altars. You need a gold, a stone, and a wood in order to build an altar. Now you've got the grain. The grain is useful towards, first of all, it improves or makes travel more efficient. It allows you to travel further spaces. And also, it says that you can use this along with a cattle to discard it while you're on an altar to make a sacrifices. And sacrifices are very, or offerings are very helpful, and I will describe later on in the game why they are helpful. And the blue player started with 2 cards, a cattle, 2 cattles, and they, just like the grain, allow you to move through the board more efficiently and also can be discarded as a sacrifice. All right, the game also comes with these nice player aids, which let you know the different phases of each round, as well as the different profit actions that you can take, because on a player's turn, they are relegated to 4 actions. They can repeat them as many times as they want, but these are the action pool that they can choose from. And as a matter of fact, one of these actions, the destroying of an idol, takes up to 2 actions in order to perform. So there's that. We also have the starting player card, which will be alternating. It'll be passed around the table from round to round. And the real difference between the starting player, because the profit actions kind of go back to back, so the order doesn't necessarily matter too much, but the starting player token does make a difference for these blessing cards, because we'll be acquiring blessing cards throughout the game, and they will only be available to the starting player. sometimes they're beneficial to the other players as well. Finally, we have the Kings of Israel track here on the left, and we see two different types of kings, those in the yellow and those in the red. The yellow represent the righteous kings, the good kings, and the red ones represent the wicked kings. Whenever you begin a round and you do the king's godliness phase, you will check whether or not there's a righteous or wicked king. And if it's a righteous king, you'll draw a blessing card for the starting player. If it's a wicked king, which as you can see, the majority of them are, then you will draw a sin and punishment card and resolve that text there. This track here also serves as a ticking time bomb, because once we've made it to this spot, if we have not built the 7 altars or the amount of altars that it takes to win the game, we will officially lose the game. However, there are other ways of losing the game. If you ever need to put more sin cubes than what you have available in the pool, then you've lost the game. And the same applies to the idols. And with that being said, we will proceed to the beginning of the game, and we'll see how the game is actually played. So the first thing we're going to do is the King's Godliness phase. And again, we start with King Saul right here. Oh, very important. We have these kings here that have 3 to 4 players or 4 players on the right. If you're not playing with 3 or 4 players, you skip those kings and move on to the next one. So with the King's Godliness phase, I have King Saul, who's a righteous king. So I'm going to draw a blessing card for the starting player. And we've got Dothan the Prophet, or the Dothan Prophet. Place this card face up. If Dothan is without sin cubes, and we've got Dothan right here, and idols, and it is without sin cubes and idols, play with the top card of the location deck face up. So the top card of the location deck is face up. Whenever a prophet is in Dothan, sin cannot spread from Aram. So this is very beneficial. First of all, it's going to protect us from Aram, and Aram is one of the nations that surround Israel. It's not a location in and of itself, so it will not take any sin cubes, but whenever you draw these nation cards, they infect the cities next to them with sin. They influence them with sin. However, if a prophet is in the Dothan location, they will be blocked and prevented. Also, it's going to allow us to play with the top card of the nations deck face up, and that is amazing because you actually get to know at least one of the locations that's coming up and do any, prevention that you might want to do as a team or as a group of players to do it. Now, there will be more than one card drawn, so you're not going to know all of them, but it's still helpful to know the top one, which in this case will be the nation of Judah over here, which would infect Bethel and Jericho. All right, so we're done with that. Now, the next phase in a round is the sin increases phase, which is where we would draw a number of location cards equal to the number of players plus 1. So in a 2-player game like this one, it would be 3 cards. We draw 3 cards. However, for the first round, we skip the skin increases phase. Thank goodness. Then we move on to the third phase, which is the prophet's work phase. And here we go. And each player, starting with the starting player, is going to get to use his or her 4 actions. So I'm going to start with the sailor here. And I am going to use 2 of my actions here to move, or 3 of my actions, because I'm going to use movement. Each adjacent space costs 1 action point. So I'm going to go to Cabal, then I'm going to go to Hamath, and then I'm going to end up in Shinareth, which looks very dangerous with two sin cubes there. So now I still have 1 action. That cost me 3 actions. I still have 1 action, and the options that I have, the best one that I would like is to acquire resources. So I will draw 1 card from the resource stack, and I've got a goal, which again is helpful for the building of those temples. And now the blue player is done with their turn. Now the orange player will go, and they're going to go southward and try to address some of the problems, maybe in Tirzah and Shiloh. It would take 1, 2, 3, so you would not be able to destroy that right now. He could go 1, 2. He could spend one of his grains to move an additional. So the way the grain works is you could discard it to move up to 3 spaces. Not an additional, but 3 spaces in total. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Trying to find the quickest path. 1, 2, 3. This is the quickest path to Shiloh. So I'm going to discard this grain card here to allow the orange player to move up to 3 spaces. He'll move from Megiddo to Aphek to Joppa to Bethel. And that was just 1 action. With his second action, he's going to move into Shiloh, and he's going to use the preach to the Israelites action, which is how they remove 1 cube. So that was 3 actions. He moved, which was to Bethel, that was 1. He moved into Shiloh, that was 2. And he preached to remove a sin cube for 3. He still has 1 action left, which I'm going to use to draw resource cards. And very important, the maximum hand in this game is actually 6, right? It's not like Pandemic where it's 7. It's 6 cards. So if you ever draw a 7th card, you'll be forced to discard 1 card. So he drew another grain. He spent a grain and he drew another grain. Okay, and we're done. We're done with both of the Prophet's Work phase. Now we go to the end of round phase, where we pass the starting player card to the next person clockwise in a 2-player game. That's very easy. And then we move this down to the next king, which we're skipping Ishbosheth, and we're going to David, right? Now, we are playing with the easy mode, which is, first of all, it allows the players to see each other's resource cards. And also, if you ever make a sacrifice, it allows you to draw a free blessing card, which is very helpful because this game can be very, very challenging. All right, so we move on to the next round, and now the orange player is the starting player. David is a righteous king, so we get to draw another blessing card. And it says, the selling of grain. Each player may discard any amount of grain from their hand to search the resource deck for an equal number of cards of their choice. That is an amazing ability, and it benefits both players. Unfortunately, the blue player does not have any grain, but the orange player does have a grain, so he gets to trade in 1 grain. He gets to look through this resource deck. I will shuffle afterwards. I'm just going to grab this stone, because the stone, along with the gold and the wood, will allow me to build an altar. And I already have the gold, so now I have the second out of the 3 resources. And because that was the first card, I'm not even going to bother reshuffling because I didn't see anything. So that was a great blessing. Now we'll move on to the sins increases phase. And this is not the first round, so sin will increase. So I'm going to draw 3 cards from the location, starting with this top one here, which is Judah. So Judah is going to be infected, and Judah connects to Bethel and Jericho. So each of these will take a black cube. We got 2 more locations to draw. Another nation, Aram. If we would have had a prophet in Dothan, Aram would have been safe, but that's not the case. So we are going to infect, and Aram connects to Hamath, and it affects to Jabesh. We're going to spread the sin. And then finally, the 3rd location is to Samaria, which is where the altar is. And even though there's an altar there, we will have to place a sin cube there. And finally, because we have the Dothan prophet card, we will leave this location card face up so that we know that the nation of Ammon is going to be the next card drawn. All right, so we're done with the sins increase phase. Now we're going to go to the prophet's work phase, starting with the starting player, which is the orange player. And the orange player has 4 actions. So the orange player is going to move over here, 1 to Mount Ebal, 2 to Tirzah. That's 2 actions. And now the player will spend his last 2 actions to remove this idol, because this idol costs 2 actions to remove. And the way the idols work is, if you ever draw a location that has an idol in it, not only do you put a sin cube in it, but you also put a sin cube everywhere that connects to that idol. And Dan over here is not too dangerous because it only connects to 1 other location, but Tirzah does connect to 2. So we're going to do that. And those are the 4 actions for the orange player. Now we're going to move on to the blue player, and the blue player is going to treat 1 sin right here in Shinnereth, and the blue player is going to go... Why didn't I treat this right here? Akko had 2 cubes, and I never treated that. That was a big mistake on my part. But you know what? I'll be fine. I'm going to play the cattle to allow me to move 3 spaces. That was very inefficient on my part, but that's okay. So that was my 2nd action. I cleared a cube in Shinnereth. I preached and removed sin in Shinnereth. I used the cattle to move back to Akko, up to 3 spaces. I'll use my 3rd action to preach in Akko and remove a sin cube. And I have a 4th action, which I will use to draw a resource card. And I've got a wood. So I've got a gold and a wood. The orange player has a gold and a stone. So we're on our way to building 2 more altars. All right. So we are done with the prophet's work phase. We will move on to the end of the round, where we will switch the starting player card, and we will advance to the next round, which is King Solomon. All right, so Again, King Solomon is a righteous king, so therefore the starting player gets to draw a blessing card. And we have this card, Turn from Sins. It says, remove a sin cube from each location containing a prophet. Unfortunately, Tirsa here, where the orange player is, has no cubes, but Akko does. So guess what? I get to remove a cube. That doesn't hurt. All right, so that was just a one-time benefit blessing. All right, now we will move on to the sin increase phase. We will draw 3 cards. First, we have the nation of Ammon, which is a nation, and it connects to 2 locations, Jabesh Gilead and Mount Nebo. Then we have Megiddo over here, and Megiddo, right here, gets a cube. And then finally, the third one will be Joppa, and Joppa is getting a little dangerous here. And again, because we have the Dothan prophet card, we will reveal the top location and keep it face up. The nation of Phoenicia will be the next card to come out. All right, so now we've done the sins increase. We'll move on to the prophet's work, starting with the blue player. And the blue player, again, has this special action of, first of all, once per turn, if he's at a seaport, and he is, he gets to remove a sin cube for free. So first of all, I'm going to go here for 1 action because I get to move to any seaport for 1 action because I'm the sailor. I am at a seaport here, so that is 1 action just to move. I get to remove one of these cubes without an action. So I still have 3 actions left to go. So let's see what I want to do here. Nothing here looks too particularly dangerous. I think the orange player is going to take care of Jabesh Gilead here. So I think I'm going to take advantage of the fact that things don't look too bad. You know what? I am going to get rid of 1 more. That's going to be my second action. Because you'd be surprised how quickly this game catches up on you. You think you have a chance and then it just sneaks up on you. So I'm going to use my last 2 actions to draw 2 more cards. I got a wood and I got a cattle. Okay, I really need some stone. Now the orange player will take their actions. They will move to Jabesh Gilead for 1. They will remove these 2 cubes, these 2 sin cubes for 2 more actions. So that's total 3 actions. And for their 4th action, they will draw a card, and it's a cattle card. All right. So again, we move to the end of the round phase. We will switch the starting player, and we will advance to the first wicked king on the track, Jeroboam the First. All right. So again, we do the king's godliness phase. It is the orange player is the starting player. Because it's a wicked king, we no longer draw from the blessings. We will draw from the sin and punishment stack. And it says, taken prisoner. Any player ending this round adjacent by road to an outside nation loses their following turn. So that's a very important card to keep track of. We do not want to end our turns adjacent to a surrounding nation. Because if we do so, we are in big, big trouble. All right, we will lose our entire next turn. You know, that is a lot. That's a big price to pay. All right, so the orange player is first. Oh, wait, we got to do the sins increases phase. So we've got Phoenicia here. Phoenicia's over here, connects to Kedesh, and it connects to Akko. We have Moab, the nation of Moab. And the nation of Moab, luckily for us, only connects to Mount Nebo. And then finally, we have the nation of Phoenicia again. All right. And again, we got Akko and Kedesh. Okay, so the orange player will go first. The blue player can take care of Akko. He has the seaport abilities. What can the orange player do? 1, 2, 3. Okay, because we don't want to end up here in Kedesh. Even though Kedesh looks threatening, we don't want to end up there. Nebo is much easier to go to and flee from. So I think I might do that. 1, 2, clear a cube. Yes. All right. That's going to be rough because they're not going to be able to draw a 4th card, but I want to take care of Nebo now. So I'm going to go 1, 2. I'm going to remove a sin cube for my 3rd action here. And for my 4th action, I will move, but I will use this cattle to speed me up so that I can go 1. I don't want to end up on this track. 1, 2, and 3. And I'm not adjacent to a nation. Okay, so we're done with the orange player. The blue player will use 1 action to travel to any port over here to Akko. Because he's at a port, he gets to treat a sin cube for free. So that's not even an action. He still has 3 actions left. He will move to Kadesh for his second action. He will treat or remove, he'll remove one of these sin cubes for his third action. And for his fourth action, he'll move to Hazor. That way, no. He will spend, he's going to have to spend his cattle because any way he goes, he's going to have to spend his cattle in order to not end adjacent to a nation. So he will do 1, 2, 3. Let's just end up in Megiddo. He'll do 1, 2, and 3. All right. Or how about just here, just to stay close to a port and capitalize on his action? Yeah, I'm going to stay indoor. And that's not adjacent to a surrounding nation, so he is fine as well. Okay, so we're done with that. We will move on and add the... did we? Yeah, we did that. All right, so we will switch the starting player, and we will advance to the next Wicked King, which is Baasha. Okay, so with Baasha, we will... The blue player is the starting player. We'll draw a Sin and Punishment card. It says... Oh, we need to keep these face up. Did I do this? How many turns have we gone? We've gone 4 turns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This is right, because, yeah, this is right. We didn't have one the first turn. Okay, so the Sin and Punishment card says, the king turns on God. Destroy any altar in Samaria and replace it with an altar. That is awful, folks. So Samaria does have an altar. It will be destroyed. It's replaced with an idol. And instead of having to build 6 more altars to win the game, we now have to build all 7 of them from scratch. All right, so that is awful news. Now we will do the Sins Increase phase. Mount Tabor will be the first one to take a cube. Then we will do Jabesh Gilead over here. And we will do Shall Be Again. And this Shall Be Again basically is the equivalent of the epidemic cards in the sense that, in pandemic, in the sense that it makes you reshuffle all of these cards, right? So you do remove this from the game, though, so it's not going to be back. So some of the previously drawn cards, and I still have to draw 1 more card. We've only spread Sin to 2 more cities. So we will add 1 more card, and it is the nation of Philistia. So Philistia is connected only to Joppa. There we go. All right, so we've done Sin Increase. Now we'll do the Prophet's Work phase. And we desperately need to build some altars here, folks. So I'm going to draw a resource card, see what that does for me. I've got grain. That would be great to make a sacrifice on an altar, but there are no altars. I will draw an additional resource card. And I drew a wood. And I'm at my maximum capacity of 6. I could draw 1, but then I would have to get rid of 1. I think, so that's 2 actions. I think I'm going to end up with Bethel here. I want to end up 1, 2, 1, 2. I want to get to the Shiloh player and trade cards with him. 1, 2, 3, 4. Because the action, the way it works is you give resources. You give resources to players. You cannot take them, right? It's not like Pandemic where it's a 2-way street. So I might not have enough actions to be able to give it to him. But he can give me his stone, but that would only be helpful for the future turn. 1, 2. How can I do this, folks? How can I do this? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Nope, there's no way of getting to it. All right, so I'm pretty much stuck. I'm just going to use my grain here to move up to 3 spaces for my third action. I'll move to Mount Carmel, Megiddo, and finally Mount Tabor. And for my fourth action, I will remove one of those Sin cubes. All right, now the orange player will go. And the orange player is also going to draw some resources. He's got cattle. That's 1 action. He'll draw another resources. He's got grain. That's 2 actions. He'll draw another resource. He's got another cattle. That's 3 actions. And he'll draw another resource. Gold. He's got 2 gold, but he has no wood. And he is done with his turn. So we will place the starting player card over here. we'll advance to the next king, which in this case we jump all the way to Omri. He is a wicked king. We begin the next round with the sin and punishment card, Thieves here. It says after every move action performed this round, that player must discard a resource card from their hand if they have one. Wow, so we've got to consider not moving at all. I forgot to put this face up. So we got to consider not moving at all this turn because we're going to have to spend a card for every move action we do. Okay, so now we'll do the sins increase. First, we're going to do it from the nation of Assyria, which is connected to Dan and connected to Hazor. And because Dan has an idol there, we will add an additional cube to Kedesh right here. All right, so now we are done. Now, if we, well, that was just one location. The second location is Dothan, which we'll put another cube here. And the third location is Kedesh, which Kedesh is going to get a third cube. And every time a nation gets 3 or more cubes, unlike Pandemic, you can't have more than 3, you will add an altar to that location. So now Kedesh has 3 sin cubes, but it also has an idol. Sorry about that, an idol. And let's just flip this over to know the next card will be the nation of Ammon. All right, so things are getting really intense here, folks. Really, really intense. If I move, I would have to spend at least 2 cards, 2 of my cards to get there. That's going to be really, really tough. So it's the orange player who goes first now. The orange player is going to... The orange player is going to draw another resource. Let's go for it, folks. Or does the orange player... Yeah, the orange player is going to draw another resource. Here's one. Grain. What's the matter with this? He's drawing all the wood. He's drawing all the gold. All right, he's going to draw another one for his second action. Oh, no. He can't do that. He can't do that. He cannot do that. He's going to... Well, first of all, he has to discard one of these cards, unfortunately. So I have 2 grain and 2 cattle. I need my stone. Right now, you know what? I don't need gold. I'm setting aside the gold. All right, so he has 3 more actions. He's going to spend a grain to move up 3 spaces. Let's see. And then he's going to have to discard a card for his movement action. 1, 2, 3. Put me within distance. 1, 2, 3 of the blue player, just in case the blue player wants to give me some of his wood. So I'm going to spend the grain, move up to 3 spaces. 1, 2, 3. And because the orange player did a movement action, they will have to spend another resource card or discard it. He'll discard this cattle. So that was 2 actions. The first action was the drawing of the card. The second action was moving here. He still has 2 more actions. He's going to draw another card. He's got a wood, baby. He's got a wood. All right, he still has 1 more action left. So with his 4th action, he's going to build the altar. And he only has to turn in 1 of each, gold, stone, and wood. And then he gets to place an altar in the location he's currently on. So that's our first altar, folks. We're making some progress. Now the blue player will go. The blue player will go. And 1, 2, 3. The blue player is going to discard this cattle card here to move 3 spaces. So he'll move from Mount Tabor to Megiddo to Mount Gilboa, finally to Dothan. Why am I moving to Dothan? No, I don't want to do that. I'm sorry. From Mount Tabor to Megiddo to Aphek to Joppa. We'll do that. There we go. And I have to discard a card for every movement action during this round. So I'll discard this additional wood. I wanted to get to Dothan earlier to give him cards, but when he drew his own wood, that became superfluous. So now I am going to, that was 1 action. I don't think I'm going to move anymore. I'm at a seaport, so I get to remove this sin cube for free. Now I will use 1 action to draw a card. That's a cattle. I'll use a second action to draw another card. That's another gold. I have 2 gold and 2 wood. And I'll use my 4th and final action to draw another card, and it's a grain. So I could make a sacrifice in a future round. All right, so we will switch the starting player, and we will advance the king track. So now we have King Ahab. The blue player is the starting player, and again we have a Wicked King. So again, we will draw from the, oh, sorry, wrong card. We will draw from the Sin and Punishment stack here. And it says Aramean Invasion. Sin spreads from Aram, and anyone adjacent to Aram loses an action. Now, this is very interesting because here it says, place this card face out. If Dothan is without Sin cubes and idols, places whatever a prophet is in Dothan, and there is a prophet in Dothan, Sin cannot spread from Aram. But I believe the rules specify that Sin and Punishment cards take precedence over the blessing cards, I believe. I might be mistaken about that. So I'm just going to play it that way. I'm going to ignore the Dothan prophet, and I'm going to punish us by having Sin spread from Aram, which will add to Hamath here, and it will add to Jabesh Gilead. All right, so now we'll do the sin increase phase. Oh, that's this card over here. And we'll add from Ammon again, or from Ammon, which spreads only to, to Jabesh Gilead and Mount Nebo. And because Jabesh Gilead has 3 or more, it gets an idol. So that was just the first location. Then we have the nation of Aram, which it just finished doing through the Sin and Punishment card. We'll add to Hamath and Jabesh Gilead again. And again, Hamath now has 3 cubes, so it will also get an idol. And because Jabesh Gilead already had 3 cubes, it's going to get a 4th cube, and it will spread to the nations it surrounds. And because it has an altar, an idol, it will spread to the nations it surrounds, or the locations it surrounds. And unfortunately, we don't spread Sin to the same city twice for the same card, so we won't spread it to Hamath here, but it still connects to Mount Gilboa, to Tirzah, and to Jericho. And guess what, folks? We only had 1 Sin cube left in the pool. So just like that, we have lost the game. There's not enough cubes to put on all the cities that should have had Sin increased to them. And we lost, folks. As you can see, this is a very challenging game, even at easy. I do think that although the higher player counts add more altars to the winning condition, I think it's easier because you have more players to handle. Because a lot of what you're doing is trying to handle and manage all the Sin spreading, right? And cover the ground and the territory as much as possible. And with 2 players, you're obviously going to cover less ground, less land, and you also have less actions at your disposal. But this is a really cool, fun alternative for games like Pandemic, Forbidden Island, Forbidden Desert, those style of cooperative games. Lots of resource management and manipulation of the geographical territory represented here by the board. A nice ticking time bomb or time track here with various ways of losing, but one clear cut winning condition in order to be victorious. Fun game, lots of asymmetry with all the different abilities that come. There's a good amount of ability cards that the game comes with. Fun. If you like the theme, you'll like it even better. But even if you don't like the theme per se or indifferent to it, there's a good chance that you might actually like this game as an alternative for cooperative play. Well, that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for joining us here when Harry Met Board Games. This is Harry saying take care, everybody. Stay safe, stay healthy, and have fun gaming. Bye-bye.